What is up, W Sports Podcast? That is right. We are a month away from the Super Bowl, which means we have playoff football happening this weekend, and that's what this episode is all about: is predictions and storylines as we head into the incredible wild card weekend. I say incredible. I hope it's going to be incredible. We need the
Yeah.
NFL to do what it does best and put on a great show, so we as fans can just enjoy it, sit back, relax, enjoy some great football. But Tubby, man, I hope you're excited because we got a great show planned today.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited. I'm a little nervous for the weekend, but definitely excited.
Yeah, a little nervous for the weekend because your Packers are playing, and we're gonna get to that game. And it's one of those that it's one of the few games that I think weather is happening. Not one of the few games,
Hmm.
all of weather's happening, but it's really doesn't look like it's gonna be a weather impacted weekend. Whereas
Yeah.
this time last year that was not the case. I mean, obviously you had the Chiefs versus Dolphins, negative 40 degrees or something like that. So
Yeah.
that won't happen this time around. Just 30s, 20s, stuff like that, and then no snow that we know of. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So
I mean, should be there. There's some interesting games, so it'll be fun to watch.
yeah, and I think there are some teams that I would say are on upset alert,
Hmm.
and it just is the momentum of it. I think we don't even have to ask the question that, hey,
Yeah.
who is missing from this weekend that should be that just missed it because of play? Maybe they
Yeah.
faltered or something like that. I think we both would say the next best team that's not in the playoffs is the Bengals, right?
Yeah.
But despite no defense at all.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So we're going to see if there's one of these teams that honestly shouldn't have been here after all. And we're going to get to this here in predictions. Here's what I want as a fan. I want the Broncos to go in and beat the Bills, and then for the Chiefs to go and beat the brains off of the Broncos, just so we can say, like, no, we had you guys. We literally were just resting our guys and just chilling. So we didn't play
Yeah.
Joe Burrow. So,
Our guys were hurt.
yeah. So they definitely were not. But
Yeah.
that's the storyline I'm hoping for. Do you have a storyline that you're hoping for as we go into
Yeah.
the wildcard weekend?
Packers run the table and make the greatest Super Bowl run of all time.
Only to fall. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
I mean, if they can somehow, just win the Super Bowl, if it happened, it would be honestly, you look at what is potentially ahead of them, it would be one of the greatest Super Bowl runs of all time.
It
You
would have to
got,
be considered.
yeah, I mean, you got the number 2 Eagles, then you play the number 1 Lions, then more than likely you're going to play the number 5 but 14 win Vikings, and then have to be either probably the Ravens, Bills, or Chiefs in the Super Bowl.
It's going to be pretty wild. I would say
And,
last year's, outside of what, I don't know, the 49ers were probably the best team
mhm.
going into it, but I don't think that it was the same as like Bills and Ravens and Bengals, like having to beat those teams.
Yeah,
Kind of thing. So, but by the way, how does Zach Taylor still have a job? Can I just ask that question? Year over year, they didn't get any better. They actually missed the playoffs. They're
yeah,
the only team that did worse year over year in their division was obviously the Browns, who somehow are keeping their coach. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder if he is, yes, the right offensive mind, but I don't know if he's the right head coach to make a deep
yeah.
playoff run. Sorry, random side fact I meant to bring up last week in predictions for
Yeah.
head coaches, but
Well,
I'm
and the
not.
fact is that they fired Lou Amaruno, who had been a really good defense coordinator, but you cut him off at the knees. I mean, you
Mhm.
got rid of most of your secondary players. Jesse Bates, a
Dude.
couple other safeties, a
Mhm.
couple of corners, and really all defense you had was Trey Hendrickson.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
and
what do
he's
you?
solid.
Yeah, he's great.
It's
Trey
annoying.
Hendrickson, yeah, is great. So I don't understand what they expected him to do when you spent all the money on the offensive side, which is smart, but
Mhm.
yet one of the guys, offensive lineman, you paid a lot of money, gave up the most sacks, most pressures, most blown pass blocks. He graded out as one of the worst
Yeah.
offensive line statistics in history.
Yeah, I know, which I don't think we all saw that coming, but
No.
here we are. So, all right, well, let's get to it. I mean, we're 4 minutes into the show. Let's go ahead and get straight to the predictions here. We got the first game, which is on Saturday. We got Chargers and Texans. Texans are the home team. They did win the
Mhm.
division only because the bar to win the division was the Colts, who didn't want to, the Jaguars, who are the Jaguars, and the Tennessee Titans, who, good Lord, are wishing they should have kept Mike Vrabel. So they're in the playoffs. The sophomore slump, whatever you want to say for them, with CJ
Mhm.
Stroud. Should they actually be the favorites? Vegas has them as a 3-point dog at home in the playoffs.
I think that's right. I, I
Yeah.
I don't think they are the favorites going into this game. I mean, we've seen how much better the Chargers have played the last couple of weeks when J.K. Dobbins came back, they're able to run the football a lot more. The offense looks more explosive. I think that the Chargers win this game. I don't think that it's really an upset to me. I think the Chargers are the better team right now. We
Mhm.
have seen the Texans pretty much all season, except for maybe the get go, just have floundered. And a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, so and so's hurt, so and so's hurt. Yeah, I get that. But still, you barely, I mean, you lost to the Colts, what, 3 or 4 weeks ago?
Mhm.
I don't think that they're a great team right
Yeah.
now.
I would agree, and I think that part of it is one, they don't know how to get the ball back to Joe Mixon and do what they did at the beginning of the year with success. It's almost like there was success there that they wanted, but they didn't want it in spite of CJ Stroud be looking like a top five quarterback like he did last year. So they went
Yeah.
too hard the other way. Obviously, he got hurt for a little bit. Tank Dell
Mm-hmm.
injury. I think the injuries. There's just a lot of bad chemistry, bad like just reps in the game for this team. I think the Chargers should win this game, but the only way the Chargers win this game is if they play the game their way,
Yeah.
which I think they should be able to handle the Texans' offensive line and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
I'm also picking the Chargers. I think you're officially picking the Chargers. Is that right?
Yeah. I picked Chargers.
Okay. Any spark that would give the Texans a chance? Like if X happens, hey, I think it wouldn't be a surprise if they won.
I mean, the offense line has to block. I mean, if that offense line can block and give CJ some time, or open up some holes for Joe Mixon, yeah, they absolutely can win this game. I mean, I'm not saying that it's foregone conclusion that Chargers are just going to go in there and beat the brakes off them, but I think that it's right that they they should win this game
Hmm.
because of what we have seen of recent. I haven't seen CJ Stroud be able to put the team on his back like he did last year and just go out there and ball out and win. And you never know, he could do that this week and have a first round playoff game like he did last year.
Yeah. I don't know the last time it happened. I would say like for them to win this game, Joe Mixon's got to have 135 plus total yards.
Yeah.
He hasn't done that, I believe, since November 18th, since before Thanksgiving, before the holidays. Holidays are over, so maybe he's going to be back to it. But I think that's the key for them, whether
Yeah.
through the passing game or obviously through the run game. They got to get that going, and I don't know that it's going to happen, but that's the pathway.
Yeah.
Let's look at the Ravens Steelers. We got the third matchup of this one right here. Someone's going to win the series for the year. Ravens at home are almost 10-point favorites going into this one. And honestly, it feels like they have all the momentum and one of the best teams in the league, while the Steelers look like they limped into the playoffs. And if you're a Steelers fan, I think that most of them are feeling, well, we're
Mhm.
put up a dud, and what are we even doing?
Yeah. No,
So,
I think that's a great a great way to put it. I mean, we have seen this team just absolutely just play terrible the last 6 weeks of the season. I mean,
yeah,
what have they lost 6 in a row, something like that?
I think
It's just
five,
is it five? Yeah, I mean, they
or
haven't
four
played great
in a row.
football.
Excuse me, four in a row.
Not good continuity, especially on the offensive side. You can tell, George Pickens just isn't interested in playing football right now.
It's so
But
bad.
I mean, as long as the Ravens, like they said a couple weeks ago, run the football, they should win this game pretty easily. But this is one of those rivalries when it comes, especially playoffs. We have seen some incredible Raven Steelers playoff games, in the early, 20 teens. Roethlisberger and Joe Flacco and the two just daunted defenses. So if the Steelers were somehow able to pull this off, I wouldn't be super shocked just because we have seen Lamar struggle in the playoffs. I mean, he's got two playoff wins in his career. So I'm going to pick the Ravens, but I think this game's going to be closer just because of the rivalry. And it just seems like Lamar folds in the playoffs.
Yeah. They're of the losses the Ravens have this year. Big surprise. Derrick Henry carried the ball 20 times or fewer in all of the losses. Now there are a couple games where he did that fewer times and they won.
Mm-hmm.
There's one, two, was it three, 4 times that they won, and then 5 times, so 4 and 5 if they don't give him the ball 20 times. So give him the ball 20 plus times and see what your team does. Which I believe they're what 8-0 at that point. I don't even
Yeah.
understand what this should be, but I do think that sometimes the Ravens they get too cute and they don't run the ball effectively. You have Derrick Henry; he almost rushed for 2,000 yards. He had 16 more touchdowns, two on the ground or two in the air as well. Give
Yeah.
him the ball a lot, and I think they should be able to win. Now, the game that they played where they lost to the Steelers earlier this year, right before Thanksgiving, he had 13
Mhm.
carries for 65 yards and a score. That's what they got to do. They have to, I would say, do whatever it takes
Yeah.
to load the box with 10 guys, if that's what it takes, and say, you're going to have to beat win this game by throwing the ball past me.
Yeah.
Make it happen.
I mean, Zay Flowers is out, so they're
That's
going to
true.
they're your top wide receiver target. But I don't know if most people know this. Mark Andrews has the most touchdowns by tight ends this year, even though the first 5 games he didn't have a single one. So Mark Andrews has
What a
come
fact.
on strong since the week 5, and just absolutely been on a tear. So you imagine he's going to look at Mark Andrews quite a bit in this game. But like you said, if you can make Lamar beat you with his arm, which he
Hmm.
has done a better job of that this year. I mean, we've seen those 2 shootouts with the
Hmm.
Bengals where he put his team on his back, especially the first one when they didn't. What Derrick Henry didn't have a carry in the second half. He had 1 carry or 2 carries in the overtime, and Lamar was able to put the team on his back, throw the football down the field. But this is a different defense. Steelers defense is way better than the Bengals defense.
Yeah, I want to say, I want so badly to say, on paper, load the box, make them throw it. They're not going to do it. They
Mm-hmm.
don't have the receiving. So like, give me the Steelers, right, to win this game on the road. But the problem I have with this, and when I look at it, is the Steelers have lost 4 in a row, which we already talked about. All
Mm-hmm.
4 of those games were against the top tier of talent. 3 of them
Yeah.
are playoff teams, top seeded playoff teams, and one of them was the Bengals, who honestly should be here over the Steelers. But
Yeah.
in all those, they did not do very well. Their offense
Mm-hmm.
sputtered, and they haven't had a solid offensive game really since the Browns. I mean, for what
Yeah.
that's worth. And then the one before that was the Bengals. So they don't play defense. I don't know. I think in this, I am going to pick the Ravens. I think it's going to be closer than 10 points though. I do think this is
Yeah, I
going to
do
be
too.
6 to 3 point game, but
Mm-hmm.
it's going to be close. And I hope that Pittsburgh wins.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to keep an eye on for this game, and it's probably something I don't think a lot of people have talked about this year, and it's weird that we have to, is going to be the kicking game for the Ravens.
Ah,
Justin
that's true.
Tucker has not been great. Extra points, he's missing it, in his career in a single season. He's missed quite a few field goals this year when he's supposed to be the super clutch kicker. So if it does come down to a last second field goal, can you count on Justin Tucker to make that field goal with the woes that he's had this year, out of nowhere?
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. Well, let's move on to the Broncos and the Bills. The Bills were 8-0 at home in the regular season. The Broncos were 4-5 on the road. The Broncos are actually supposed to only 8.5 point underdogs in this game, which means that Vegas really thinks that this is going to be a closer game than the one we just got finished talking about, which is wild to me. I
Yeah.
think there's a little bit of inflatedness to like last week's perfection game from Bo Nix. Who
Mm-hmm.
did? Oh man, did you know that he and Josh, was it him or Josh Allen or Joe Burrow? They played each other in college. Isn't that crazy to think of?
Wow.
I
Yeah, I
think it
mean,
was
it
Joe
makes
Burrow.
sense.
And you're like, how in the world? That's how long Bo Nix was in college. But
Yeah.
um, the Broncos, Bills. This is the Bills should dominate this game, right? I mean, there is no
Yeah.
reason the Broncos should actually have a shot.
Yeah, I mean, I keep going back to the same stat that we've talked about all season. One win versus a team with a winning record outside of the Chiefs benching everyone, and
Hmm.
it was the Buccaneers week 2 of the season. They haven't beat another team outside of the Chiefs having to bench everyone for the last week of the season so no one gets hurt. That it took for them to win another game against a team with the winning record. So I think this game is going to be. I think it's honestly going to be the biggest blowout of this of the wild card games. I think the Bills go in there and just take care of business, and we see a rookie quarterback do rookie things in the playoffs.
Yeah, I do think that this is one of those games that like the other one I said I think is gonna be closer than they think. This one I think it's not gonna be as close. I think that 14 points easy. The Bills should dominate this game. They can run the ball. They can pass the ball. Uh, Josh Allen, I almost said Joe Burrow,
Yeah.
is literally Superman with a football
Mm-hmm.
uniform on. It's gonna be too much to overcome. Plus home and Bills Mafia, they're gonna love it. So
Yeah.
I think this is the easiest one to pick. I'm writing these down in the back because every year, in case you guys are new to the podcast, we actually do keep track of these. We try to keep a record, see who has the best one. And I will
Mm-hmm.
say, year over year, Tubby and I are pretty spot on when it comes to these picks. Maybe one or
Yeah.
two that we're not right on. So I'm just saying, you
Mm-hmm.
got to listen.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially if you're betting on these games.
Yeah, which this isn't a betting podcast, but we
No.
do have a hunch, right?
Yeah, we have pretty good hunches.
Yeah. All right. Let's move on to the next game. This is your game. This is,
Okay.
and I hate to even ask you to pick this game because
Yeah.
I know how it is as a fan. You're like, I just don't see it. But
Yeah.
Packers are on the road against the Eagles. Like you said, this is the beginning of what could be one of the greatest Super Bowl runs of all time if they can win one game at a time.
Yeah.
You got Philadelphia, who's 8-1 at home, and the
Mhm.
Packers. You have a respectable record on the road at 5-3. But what does it got? Philly is 4.5 point favorite.
Yeah, it's really going to come down to, I think, honestly, whose starting quarterback is more healthy. I mean, Jalen Hurts practiced for the first time partly yesterday. Still don't know if he's passed concussion protocols,
Yeah.
and so that's another thing. But also, he's dealing with a finger injury on his throwing hand.
Hmm.
But now you've got Jordan Love, who got dinged up in the last game of the season. For some reason, Matt LaFleur started him thinking, oh, well, we still have a shot, maybe move up one spot in the rank, in the seedings. But he gets hurt, but it didn't sound like it was like a serious injury because they're like, oh, yeah, he wanted to come back in. We just held him out because, what's the point?
Yeah.
So I think that'll be one big thing, but I just don't know if Jalen Hurts is healthy, if the Packers secondary is going to be good enough to slow down AJ Brown and Devonta Smith.
Yeah.
The secondary has been a big problem for him throughout the most of the season, and they've thrown Jair Alexander on the IR last week. It just not a great recipe for them, especially when you got teams that can throw the football.
Yeah. What's crazy is that most people aren't going to remember this, but they did play in week 1.
Yeah.
Packers lost that one 29-34. Saquon went for over 100 yards rushing, but he had 3 touchdowns. That was the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I think you have to force it to be an A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith game if you're the Packers. You cannot let this guy who, yes, he had 2,000 yards rushing, but I don't think people realize how he became a traditional running back, not necessarily the Marshall Faulk type or Edwin James back in the day whenever he would
Mm-hmm.
literally get 600, 700 yards receiving. He didn't do that this year. He had
No.
278 yards receiving, only 33 catches. I think you have to limit him on the ground and make them throw the ball. Because,
Yeah.
yes, the weakness for the Packers defense is that secondary, but the strength of this Eagles team is running the ball and controlling the game, not
Yeah.
turning the ball over. Of course, even Jalen Hurts did a much better job this year of not turning the ball over. But year over year, just a huge difference.
Yeah.
I think the Packers have a legit chance to win this one. I think it's going to be really close. I'm going to pick first because I don't want you to have to pick this game first as a Packers fan. But I am going to pick Green Bay in this one, assuming that Jordan Love plays. If he doesn't play, guys, come
Yeah.
on. I would pick Eagles in this, but I do think he is going to play, and I trust him. Without Christian Watson, maybe they go back to Jaden Reed. Okay,
Yeah.
my boy.
Yeah. I mean, the Packers are keeping it close to the vest, keeping the Eagles on their toes, whether or not Jordan Love's going to play or not. But he kind of let it slip out in an interview press conference today where he's like, oh, yeah, I'm zipping the football like normal. And he's like, they're like, well, what does that mean? He's like, I don't know. You figure it out type thing. So,
That's a good answer.
I mean,
That's funny.
I imagine he's going to play, but I'm going to pick the Eagles because I don't know if the Packers secondary, if it comes down to it, can stop AJ Brown. But there's the big thing is how healthy is Jalen Hurts? Because if it does come down to it, Tanner McKee has to come in. The Packers going to force Tanner McKee to beat them, and so load the box, stop Saquon as much as you can. You ain't going to shut the guy down because he's Terminator right now, on fire, absolutely just crazy. But the Packers' strength on defense is the run defense. So hopefully they're able to figure something out. But I don't know if the secondary can hold up.
Yeah, no, I agree. I feel that too. But I am picking the Packers. I like that you
Hey,
didn't. I get it. I get not picking the Packers. A couple years ago, that was the same thing you did when we thought they were Super Bowl contending team. You're like, I'm not picking the Packers. I'm picking someone else. It's funny. We'll move over. I think the NFL did a little bit of a weird stuff when it comes to scheduling. I get why the Vikings are playing on Monday because of the Monday night thing. That totally makes sense. The Commanders Bucks being in the primetime slot, I don't quite understand. Especially being on an East Coast game. I
Yeah.
think it's weird. that's doesn't really matter in the grand scheme of things. But the Buccaneers are 3-point favorites, which is the traditional number if you didn't know in a playoff game at home. So the Bucks are 10-7, 5-4. 5-4 at home, with the Commanders are 12-5 coming into this game with a good road record as well.
Mhm.
Who you got in this one?
Well, this is a rematch of Week 1. Also,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going with the team that won the first game. I'm going with Baker. Baker is a winner, and yeah, they haven't been the most consistent the last few weeks. Last week, Baker put the team on his shoulders and like, hey, we're going out there, we're winning this division. We're not even going to give the Panthers or the Falcons a chance.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go out there, take care of the Saints, win this division, and if Falcons win, doesn't matter because we got this. So I'm going to go with the Bucks. I think that Baker Mayfield is going to come out. We're going to see Baker from wild card from last year come out and just absolutely slaughter this defense that has been good, but the secondary has struggled. And we're
Mm-hmm.
not sure if Marshawn Lattimore is going to play. So that,
Yeah.
it helps because we know Marshawn Lattimore is Mike Evans' kryptonite. So I think
Isn't
that
that
the
crazy?
Buccaneers come out on top. And I think that we see Jaden Daniels maybe have a little hiccup and have a rookie mistake couple here and give the Buccaneers the game.
Yeah, he's got 9 turnovers in the year, all of them interceptions, 3 fumbles, none lost. Jaden Daniels
Mm-hmm.
being that is. Do you know who the
Yeah,
leading rusher for the Commanders is?
Jaden Daniels.
Yes,
Yeah.
891 yards. Brian Robinson, he had 799 with eight touchdowns. He did find the end zone pretty well. I would say I think the key to this game it should be the Buccaneers, but you got to make sure that they can't run the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Don't let Jaden Daniels have the big long scrambles. I think his longest run was just over 40 yards this year, but don't let those happen. And I think you
Yeah.
can contain this team because I don't. Um, I think in games like this, like the even Vegas is in, well, all right, well, it's too evenly matched. We're going to give the home field favorite 3 points.
Yeah.
Who can run the ball better? The Bucks have to give the ball a ton to
Yep.
their guy Bucky Irving. If they can do that, I think they're going to be in a really solid position. But at the same time, Commanders have got to shut down the run.
Mm-hmm.
Simple as that. Tails oldest time in playoff football. Run the ball, don't run the ball, whatever.
Yep.
But I do trust Tampa Bay to run the ball effectively.
Yeah.
And even if he doesn't, if he gets hurt, they do have hot hands with Rashard
Mhm.
White and Tucker, if
Yeah.
need be.
Yeah. I mean, Robinson's numbers would have been higher if he wouldn't have got hurt this year. He
Yeah.
probably would have got close to the 1,000-yard mark. But since he's come back from the injury, we haven't seen the Brian Robinson that we saw before the injury.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where they get worried because Eckler's out, and so now you're kind of leaning on Jeremy McNichols to pick up where Eckler, picked up for Robinson, and
Nichols, come on.
it's just it hasn't happened. I mean, Eckler played great for them up until he got hurt, and so I think you're spot on there. They're going to have to find a way to run the ball, but if the Buccaneers can mitigate Jaden Daniels getting outside the pocket and extending plays, I think they should win this game, and I think it'll be more than 3 points.
Yeah. All right. Well, I got that one down for both of us. Tampa Bay. So far, only one game has been different, and that's your Packers Eagles game.
Yeah.
All right. We got the Vikings versus the Rams. Congratulations, Vikings, on winning 14 games out of 17 this year. You can go on the road to play in Los Angeles during wildfire, which is absolutely devastating and terrible. I would be
Yeah.
interested to see as they look at that. Hopefully, they can get that all controlled, not necessarily for football, but just for the people who are there, all the
Yeah.
safe stuff. But what does this look like further down? Because that can have repercussions if they had to delay it or move sides. All that stuff is pretty awful to have to think of for playoff football, let alone for playoff football
Yeah.
with all the extra stuff for families and houses and stuff like that. But
Yeah. It doesn't
go ahead.
sound like they're playing the game in LA. Sounds like it's going to be in Glendale, Arizona. They're going to play at Arizona Stadium. From that would be my guess. They've looked at that avenue. I would imagine with the way that the fires haven't been contained. I mean, last time I saw it was 0% contained. So I don't think that they're going to risk that. In LA, I think the game will be played in Glendale. So yeah, it's going to stink because it will kind of throw off some travel schedules and really does take away from the home field advantage
Oh
that
yeah.
the Rams would have. But I'm still going to take the Rams. And I have talked up that I was wrong about the Vikings and all that, but the Vikings, I think they needed home field advantage because they, granted, their record on the road is good.
6-2, solid.
Yeah, but their 2 of their 3 losses have come on the road, and they have played a lot worse on the road, points per game and stuff like that, compared to what they have on at home, which it is to be expected. But I think that the Rams, have won a Super Bowl in the last 4 or 5 years, a lot of these guys are still there, except for maybe on the defensive side. Matthew Stafford's been there. We saw him give the Lions everything that they wanted last year, and the Lions ended up in the NFC Championship game. I think they do it for LA because of everything going on. They play a little extra hard for their city, and they come out on top in a very close game.
Yeah, I like that as well. I do think the emotional weight of carrying the city, and the city wants. I mean, as lack of fandom that the Los Angeles football teams have had over a couple of years, the Rams are the team that that seems like the city is drawn to compared to the Chargers.
Yeah.
Which is funny. We didn't even bring this up, obviously, because it's on the road for them. But
yeah,
I think they are going to be the team that carries that extra emotional weight as you go into it, and it's going to be talked about during the broadcast. I think it'll be talked about far more in that broadcast than it is even for the Chargers.
Yeah.
Again, more on that, but and the hard part is when you play on the road, you lose a little bit of that, and that is hard. And the Vikings are the favorite on this team, but I'm going to be right there with you. If I have the heart of a city and I have Matt Stafford, I feel solid. Now, the key is they have to run the ball, and they gotta find ways to get explosive plays. This Rams team hasn't been nearly as explosive this year, and they're just a little bit older and more injured. But that is what they have to do, because the Vikings, they can be explosive in a second.
Yeah, and I think one great thing for the Rams, is the way their offense runs. A lot of over the middle crossing patterns with Puka and Cooper Kupp, and now you get Tyler Higbee back. A lot of it goes over the middle. What the Vikings like to do on defense is blitz their linebackers. So you're leaving that middle open and leaving your corners out on an island to stop those guys from getting over the middle. And Matthew Stafford is a guy that when you blitz him, typically he's going to make you pay. And he has seen blitzes. He's a veteran quarterback. And so I think that's another thing that plays into it, is the amount that the Vikings have to blitz to put pressure on the quarterbacks is going to be their downfall, because we know what Puka and Cooper Kupp and Tyler Higbee can do across the middle of the field.
Yeah, 100% agree. Guys, those are our predictions. We'd love to know what yours are, so feel free to put those in the comment sections, whether it's on the shorts, it's on Instagram, or it's even on YouTube. We want to know what you guys' predictions are, because we want to see how you stack up. We want to see how we stack up against you, because I imagine that, like us, you feel like a pretty solid expert when it comes to this stuff. But Tubby, any final things before we sign off today?
I figured since we got playoff football starting, and we will have another giveaway going this month, might as well give them the first clue for this.
I was
next
hoping we had a clue. I'm ready. So in case people didn't know, this is the giveaway of the sports memorabilia that we do once every month, and the easiest way to get this is to subscribe to the channel. But every single month, Tubby puts out hints to who this person is, and if you guess it right in the comment section, you get 3 extra entries for that month's giveaway. So Tubby, what is the hint?
The first hint for this upcoming giveaway for January is he is a Hall of Fame linebacker.
Okay. It's okay. I'll take this off here. But I'm gonna go ahead and eliminate a couple of guys who I know are Hall of Fame, but I'm like, but I know you, and I also know your family. I'm like, well, he can't give away that person, because it's the first 2 that came to my mind. You give those away. So
I will say, this guy is very much more name worthy than Lenny Moore. No flack against Lenny Moore, because Lenny Moore is an incredible running back, but this guy is a big name guy. So keep that in mind.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But the first 2 that came to mind were big name guys. I don't know. I'm interested to see more hints as we go week to week. We will have another episode, or 2 episodes later this week. One obviously to recap all college football. We're going to have one obviously for the NFL as it recaps, and then you guessed it, probably next week we're going to start to have some baseball episodes, and there's some news and notes that we'll catch everybody up on. But guys, we're literally a month away from pitchers and catchers reporting. It's beautiful. Drove by stadium today, looked at it, and I said, "You all got to be here in a month." Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So, Hope you all are excited. Thank you so much for subscribing, being a part of the show. I know it's a little bit longer of an episode, but it's football season, it's playoffs. It's also the only episode this weekend. So hope you all enjoy 5 straight days of playoff football.
See ya.
See you.